Hi there. It's great to be here this morning. Those of you who know me know that I start with an apology, which is that I have absolutely no PowerPoint slides with me today. I know there are some of you who will be deeply disappointed, and I won't take offense if you go out and grab a coffee while I share some thoughts with you. Today, I want to share some thoughts and questions about a topic area that I've only recently started to explore. So I think I have some important questions. I'm not sure I have all that many answers at this point, but it's a great opportunity to at least put into words some of the thoughts and research that I've been doing and get some feedback, hopefully some in this session itself, but hopefully even more over time as we establish a conversation around the topic. So to introduce the topic, I want to start on a down note, which is that we live in a world of mounting performance pressure. And it's even worse than that, because if there were pressure that were predictable and we knew how and where it was going to manifest itself, that would be something we could plan for. But what's really interesting about the current global economy is that the events are extreme and unpredictable, what Taleb calls the black swans, occurring with increasing frequency and increasing severity. They come out of left field in the blink of an eye and upset all our carefully laid out plans, and in some cases even kill us in the process. So this is really pressure. And we feel it at all levels. Personal, institutional, the institutions we work with are feeling pressure, mounting pressure over time, and social pressure. So it's mounting at all levels. And the bad news, the really bad news, is it's not going to go away. The research that we've done at the center around what we call the big shift suggests that this is a long-term secular shift and that there's absolutely no sign of it leveling off, much less turning around. So it's something we need to prepare for and find ways, hopefully, to thrive in. Otherwise, we're just going to stress out, drop out, and become more and more marginalized. It is the dark side of digital technology, because I do believe that digital technology is, in fact, a key driver of this mounting pressure, reducing barriers to entry and barriers to movement and connecting us in ways that set off cascades that are completely unpredictable and scale at unimaginable rates. So I think it's understandable that we're all feeling increasing stress, growing stress. It's not in our minds, it's not in our imagination, it's real. That pressure is out there. And it's also predictable that in a time of mounting pressure, certain cognitive biases take hold, which we have got to at least be aware of as we move forward. One is that we tend to magnify risk. In times of mounting pressure, we magnify the perception of risk, and we discount the perception of reward. It tends to make us more tentative, more risk-averse. We want to wait till things clear up. Time horizons shrink. We tend to focus on shorter and shorter term horizons. Long term is something we can't even possibly think about because it's so far away. What's happening now is overwhelming us. So it's a short-term horizon. Another cognitive bias is we tend to fall into zero-sum mindsets, win-lose mindset. If all we have is the short term, we have a fixed set of resources. So the only question is, who's going to get what share of those resources? If you win, I lose. Talk about erosion of trust. Win-lose mindsets definitely erode trust. Sound familiar? I think our society and many of our institutions and many of us as individuals fall prey to these cognitive biases. They're playing out around us every day. But it doesn't have to be that way. There is an alternative future out there. As we all know, digital technology opens up incredible potential, unlimited exponential possibility, in fact. It enables us to connect, collaborate, and learn at a scale that was unimaginable in the past. In fact, if properly harnessed, can unleash increasing returns that amplify our impact. At the end of the day, if we get this right, the best way to think about the world is not 7 billion mouths to feed, but 7 billion minds to unleash. That's a powerful, powerful opportunity. What do we need to shift to those kinds of positive outcomes rather than the dystopian future that the cognitive biases are inexorably driving us towards? Well, I think there are a lot of things that have to come together. But I'm increasingly of the belief that one of the most powerful ones is to expand our focus beyond stories to narratives. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to make a distinction that I think is important, and I look to you to help me to filter it and refine it over time. Stories are incredibly popular as a topic right now. I counted here at South by Southwest, there are 112 sessions with storytelling or stories as part of the topic. So it's of huge interest, and it's understandable why there's interest. But I think stories, at least the way I'm going to define it, and we can challenge the semantics, but at least bear with me in terms of the distinction I want to make. For me, stories are defined by two attributes. One is they're finite. They have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end, or a resolution. And the second aspect of stories that's interesting is they're stories about me, or those other people over there. They're not about you. You're meant to hear the story, hear the experiences. Now, stories are extremely powerful in terms of engaging emotion and creating memorable experiences. So I understand why stories are so intriguing and why there's so much focus on the power of story. But I want to draw a distinction between stories, as I just defined them, and narratives. And I know sometimes we use interchangeably, but again, bear with me, I'm going to make a distinction, which is that narratives have two other attributes. One is narratives are open-ended. They don't have resolution. There is something that is in the process of unfolding. The end is yet to be determined. And second, there's an invitation to all of us to participate in that narrative, to help determine what the outcome is going to be. It's yet to be determined, and it's up to you. Not up to them, not up to me, up to you as to how this is going to unfold and resolve itself. So I don't know, does this distinction make sense? I invite conversation about it. But whether we choose those words or other words, and again, it can all be semantics, I think there is an important distinction between those two kinds of ways of communicating. Ultimately, in my mind, I would also say that, again, stories are very powerful, but I contrast with narratives. The power of narratives is many people throughout history have actually given their lives for a narrative. Narratives not only motivate action, they motivate life and death choices. So there's a power there that very few, if any, stories can replicate. Now, narratives, at least again, the way I'm thinking about it, answers three questions. One question is, why are we here? Second, what can we accomplish while we're here? And then third, how should we connect with each other in a way to accomplish the things that we're here for? Those are three really important questions, and any good, powerful narrative ultimately answers all three. And stories can arise, narratives can arise at three different levels. Personal narrative, institutional narrative, and a social narrative. Now, at the level of social narrative, you don't have to look very far for some very compelling narratives that have shaped our history. There's the narrative of Christianity. Man was born into sin, but there's a Savior that can help take us into salvation, us. And it's up to you. It hasn't been determined yet. The future is yours to determine. There's the American narrative. America, the land of opportunity, a place where anybody, anywhere, no matter what their circumstances, can come and become something much greater than they were before. Huge, powerful magnet, drawing people from all over the world. Now, by the way, I didn't say narratives have to be true. That narrative conveniently ignores the American Indians who were here before, and a lot of African Americans who came here not of their own will. And yet it was a powerful narrative. It motivated incredible action over time. There's the Marxist narrative. Workers are in chains, and they have the opportunity to throw off those chains and create a society where, from each according to his ability and to each according to his needs. An incredible vision, motivated, incredible action. Future yet to be determined. It's up to us. Not up to them, not up to some force, up to you, up to us, as to how we make that happen, and whether it happens. There are institutional narratives. And I'll give just one example here, which I think is interesting. It's been condensed to a slogan, and I think I worry about confusing the slogan with the narrative, but it was Apple, is Apple. Condensed into the slogan of think different. Very powerful imperative, think different. And it captured a much broader narrative, which was technologies creating the potential and even the imperative for all of us to break out of the uniformity and conformity that mass society forces us into and achieve much greater impact by expressing our unique individuality. But it's up to us. It hasn't been determined. Think different. And important to note, and this is a confusion I get with a lot of executives I deal with when they talk about narrative. It's a narrative about our company and what we're trying to achieve and what kinds of things we've done, what great products we've introduced, and how innovative we are. The narrative of Think Different is not about Apple. It's about us. It just so happens that Apple is there as a catalyst. But it's about us. So I think it's an important illustration of narrative. I'll also just note in passing that I think narratives have played a powerful role in history at the level of cities or regions that have had global impact at certain points in time. I think there was a distinctive narrative that led to the rise of Athens in the Greek era. A narrative that led to the rise of Florence in the Renaissance, Edinburgh in the Enlightenment, Vienna in the early modernist period, and then most recently Silicon Valley in the technology era. The Silicon Valley narrative, we can change the world and make it a better place by working together, collaborating, to harness that exponential power of this awesome digital technology. An incredible narrative. it drew people from all over the world, again, to Silicon Valley. It created something that has sustained itself for quite a period of time.